We're a mom and son travel duo,
inspiring authors,
sharing world adventures with you, and inspiring dreams, bringing inspiration for creation to you,
exploring the world and finding greatness.
We're here to energize your dreams and adventures through travel. Hey guys, we are back today with which episode is this?
Number 6.
Yes, episode 6. I'm your host, Deborah Hyla.
And I'm Jonah. See you.
And we are here with our favorite editor, author,
Marcy.
Woohoo! We're so happy to have you here, Marcy. Thank you for coming and thank you for joining us today. I guess the other question that we get is publishing cost. Because they're, oh my God, is it expensive? And
is it not?
The reality is, if you put out a crummy book, it's not going to sell. And it's going to prove the traditional industry that we don't do good work. And it's not going to be on a bookshelf.
Yeah.
You get right. So I think that's where we get to your question of how much does it cost? Well, it's an investment. It really is. And I came from welfare and poverty and scarcity growing up. So the idea of investing money in something to get more back was a really challenging concept because I was so scared to let go of the little bit I felt I had. But my desire to see people healed or helped or inspired or encouraged began to override some of those little like brain connections I had with money. And so what I've learned is that you don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars. You can do it on your own without any help. But at the very least, you're going to need an editor because reviewers will always comment on a poorly edited book in their reviews.
Yeah.
And you don't want that. Like that just, nobody wants to read a poorly edited book because it communicates, I didn't try that hard.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't invest in my book enough to get an editor. So depending on the length of your book, like for my children's books, currently, as of this recording, they're about $325. We'll edit 3 times. We'll go back and forth to get your book publish ready. So that's for books that are under 1,000 words, under 10,000 words, like $450. And then from there, for me, I'm about 4 cents a word for books that are over 10,000 words. And that adds up.
It does,
like that becomes a couple $1,000.
Yeah.
For books. Like I've done some editing for big projects where people paid me $3,000 to edit the entire book. But it takes time. It takes my expertise. It takes energy. So you're not just paying for like words to look better. You're paying for that person's skill and everything they've invested in it. So that's the way to think about like editing.
Yeah.
And then you're going to need to buy the ISBN numbers, which legalize, your ability to sell the book. And so those I would say, okay, that, and then you need a good cover. As much as we love to throw around, like, don't judge a book by its cover. We all judge books by their covers. Yes. Jonah, do you judge books by their covers?
Sometimes, but not that much.
Not that much?
Not that much.
You always read inside the book?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Before reading the cover?
Yeah, like before I actually read the book, I like peek inside to see if it's good or not.
Okay, so you don't say like, oh, this book, the cover is not good, so I'm just not going to.
I don't do that.
I do that. I judge books by its cover.
What makes, Jonah, when you're, like, let's say you're in a store at a library, what makes you take a book off a shelf to even look inside of it?
Well, like stuff that I'm interested in maybe. Like if I see something that I'm interested in, I say, oh, look, and then I open it. If I don't like it, I just put it back.
So is it the title that gets you then? Usually it has to say something.
Sometimes it is the cover and sometimes it's like the title.
Yeah, because if it says like basketball or dinosaurs, we're grabbing that.
Yeah, I don't even care what the outside looks like.
Anything. Like,
so the cover doesn't matter for those
if
things.
it's those two.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I mean, the title is on the cover. And so even how clear is the title so that someone can read it? Does the title communicate what the book is about? Right? So it's still part of the outside of the book that we need to invest in to make sure that when Jonah comes along, he knows right away if that book is going to interest him or not because of the design and of the title and how well you can understand it, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So those are,
He's like,
those,
yeah.
he's like, yeah. He's like, I don't know, I just love books. Give me the
Yes.
book already.
I know. He
Yeah.
loves reading. So
Yes.
how many books
Yes.
did you read this year?
This year, like just from the summer till now, like 27 chapter books, I think.
Wow. Oh, you're way beating
Yeah.
me. I'm so behind on my goals, on my reading goals this year.
Yeah,
But I
me
haven't
too.
published a lot of books, like for other people mostly. But yeah, so I would
Yeah.
say like if you're trying to go super, super inexpensive, at the very least, you have to buy the ISBN numbers. There's even some workarounds for that, but they get real restrictive, right? So I won't get into all those details now, but you could not buy ISBN if you only want to publish on Amazon and never sell it anywhere else. So there's some little ways that you could do it super, super, super cheap. But
Yeah.
the very least, my recommendation is expect to hire someone who can design the cover. Do not go design it on Canva by yourself. We can all tell. We can all tell the difference. So hire somebody who's got the tools and is trained in attracting kids like Jonah to your book, or adults like Deborah to your book, or like
Yeah.
right? Someone who's trained to know how to attract and communicate from the beginning. So the editing, the cover, and then legalizing it, the ISBN. If you take a route through a publisher like me, who I'm just now shifting a little bit in my business. So I've been helping people. I've been self-publishing for people. So they hand me their book and I go publish it with collaboration, but I do the work. Or I teach them how to do it and we do it together. That is anywhere from like $6,000 to $8,000. And that covers the fees. So there's no surprises. If you came to me as a children's book author and you paid me $6,000 to $8,000, you don't have to worry about paying the illustrator, buying your ISBN, hiring that cover designer, hiring the editor. Like that's the money you're going to spend. That's it.
Okay.
Until you're ready to like buy your own author copies and sell them.
Right.
And that can go up through $25,000. Not with me, but I've seen, I would say my competition goes up through $25,000 for getting a book published. You just have to research those really well and see what they offer and read the contracts. I had someone send me a contract recently for a different hybrid publisher, we would call them, who aren't full traditional. They're not taking all the royalty. They're taking maybe a portion of the royalty and an upfront fee, and then you get to keep most of it. In my case, you keep all of it. But someone sent me a contract, and if you don't understand the fine print and what you're signing over, you might be signing over rights to somebody you just paid a lot of money to. Whereas my contract, you get to keep all your rights, even though you're handing me money. So I think just going with trusted resources, most of my clients came referred because someone had a really good experience with me and they know I'm not a scam. And that my heart's as much in it as it is a business. And then I've got people in the industry too that I'm like, nope, that person is solid. They're affordable. They're going to turn it around quick and you're going to get high quality. And so I would say a lot of that happens with experiencing it and knowing people who have and knowing how to reach out. So in the case of your audience, I mean, they could reach out to you for resources. They're welcome to reach out to me for resources, but see it as an investment. I know I just threw out big numbers.
It is. Yeah.
But it's an investment, and it's an investment that comes back. If you've written a poor book that hasn't been edited, if your cover looks self-published, you didn't put any money into it, but you're not going to get any money back. If you do the investing into making it good internally and externally, you're going to sell that book. And if you're investing in marketing and showing up places, you're going to make the money back. So it really is that investment into how much do I want to get back at the end? How many people do I want to have reading this book and accessing it? Do I want Barnes & Noble to look at it and not tell the difference? And be willing to put it on their shelf? Then you have to do the work of putting it there. And it's worth it. Like if you're an impact-driven person, then you want your book to change lives. Well, those lives have to be willing to pick it up because it looks like you cared about them enough to do a good job.
Very true.
And so we all need to come into it with that kind of mindset. So find the money where you need to find it, take on a little side job, do a Kickstarter, pre-sell the book. I had a friend raise the money pre-selling it. She hadn't even finished writing it and she started selling it, and that was able to help her fund the book production costs. So
how did she say it? So how did she, get people to buy her book?
Yeah, she threw together a really quick, simple Wix, W-I-X, like website page, and it just had a buy link. She's got 2 that she was funding to finish, a memoir and a children's book. And so she had an option for if you want to buy both or if you want to buy one. It was like $25 or something. Like, so it was a little bit marked up because she's got to save to buy the book,
Yeah.
to fulfill the orders.
True.
But she just said, this is the time frame I'm looking at. You can be the first one to have it. I'll mail it to you signed. And people who love her and support her or love that her stories, one of them is about Down syndrome. Adelaide is the name of it. It's just now out. It's so great. Are 100% behind it.
Yeah.
And within 48 hours, she had all of the money she needed to afford the rest of her book production to finish her book.
That's amazing. I think
so there's so many ways, right?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
For sure. No, I think another way, I think another big cost is illustrations.
If you're doing
a children's book,
Yeah.
and I think that comes with a price tag. And finding a good illustrator could also be a little bit challenging. You got to, I guess, what do they say? Kiss a few frogs before the Prince Charming. That's literally how it was for me. I had to go for illustrations to make sure one who can capture kind of like my ideas of how I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be modern looking. I wanted it to be vibrant and colorful and, very, something that's going to capture my audience the way I want it to capture how Jonah looks, like, and how I look in real life.
Yes.
And so it took a while to find that right illustrator.
Yes.
And
I'm glad you brought up illustrators. I don't know why I forgot, because that's like, I am a matchmaker for authors and illustrators.
Yeah.
It's part of my role in the business that I run. It's my favorite. I have so many matches made in heaven.
Nice.
But it also means that I'm constantly out there vetting illustrators.
Yeah.
And there are some who say they can do things they cannot do. And if my author didn't have me on their team, they wouldn't know. They would not know that the illustrator isn't setting up the page right. That things are going to fall off into the middle or the edge, or that they're not giving them formatted files that are going to work. Like, they wouldn't know. But because I'm there and I've been in the industry so long, I send it back. I'm like, nope. I'm paying you to do this, and if you can't do it, I'm detracting that money from the total fee, because it's part of what I have to then go hire someone else to do it.
Right. You can buy all of our Jonah's Global Footprints book series directly on our website at tinyglobalfootprints.com. That's also where you can find Jonah's own best-selling kids books. His new book, What Does Daddy Do All Day, just hit the bookshelves. The next chapter of Jonah's Global Footprints series will explore Eastern Africa. Join us on life's adventure at tinyglobalfootprints.com. Do you test them before hiring them though? Like, because usually that's what I was doing. Like, I was just like, okay.
Yeah. So you should expect, if you're asking for a sample illustration, to pay for it.
Yeah.
Some won't charge, but you should expect that they will, because it is their time and energy that they're putting into creating a sample for you. But samples are
you can
so
negotiate
important.
it to be like zero. I didn't pay for mine for all the ones. Like, I think I had like 5 or 6 illustrators in the beginning that I would just kind of talking to, trying to figure out, right?
Well, if they're wanting the job, very, they might be willing to do that to show you. So I'm saying expect one. Expect a fee, but then, go into it with whatever it is. Some too will say, and if you hire me, the money that you paid for the sample, I'll deduct from the cost, right? We'll use it in the book somewhere.
Exactly.
So I have some great resources and tools. There's also some awesome companies out there that also do specifically these kinds of things. So anybody could reach out to me, and I'm happy to make connections.
Yeah.
Because you're right. Like, the artwork is what brings the words to life. You don't want to settle.
Yeah.
And when that match is made in heaven, and like I said, I've gotten to be on a team of a lot of those, it is like Christmas every time you interact. Like, every time you get a sketch. It doesn't even matter if it's in color yet. It's still in pencil. You're like,
it's
oh
true.
my God,
It's very true. Where did I find mine? I think I found her on Upwork. Upwork, right?
Upwork.
Yep. Upwork and Fiverr. Is there another one called Fiverr?
I would not recommend getting illustrators on Fiverr, just because there are some there's some prejudice, I would say, in the industry. And so if they hear or learn that your illustrator was found on Fiverr, they might not allow you to submit for an award, let's say, or
interesting.
Just because of quality difference.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
But you've got illustrators on Fiverr and Upwork at the same time. So it's funny, like, it's too general for me to just exclude a whole group of people, but I love Fiverr for a lot of other things.
Yeah.
So I would say too, going into it, like, the prices have gone up, and they should, right? Inflation is happening for everybody.
Yes.
So I would say at a minimum, $1,000 for illustration, and that is like you're gonna have a hard time finding that.
Yes.
You could Upwork with somebody who's like brand new,
Right.
but again, the range could go from like $1,000 to $15,000,
Yes.
$20,000, $5,000,
Yes.
depending on how long that person's been doing, how many books they have under their belt, the experience they have, the skill they have,
Exactly.
how well known their name
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
I tend to hire people who have incredible talent, but maybe haven't really been discovered yet.
Right.
And I know enough about the process that I can coach them along. And together we can create magic.
Yeah.
And then as they grow and develop, I begin to pay them more and more as well.
Yeah. No,
so
I think illustration is so important and critical. And so, yeah, you're right. You're very right about that. What do you like about illustrations?
Well, I like the way that they color it and like the design.
Yeah, how they come up with the sketches.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you do with your illustrator? You know how with Marcy you were going back and forth on email, like trying to talk about like how the changes that you guys had to make for your books.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you do it with your illustrator?
So like I would send her some pictures of like some ideas that I had.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would send it to her, and then she would like edit it into the book and like sketch it. Then she would send it back to me, and then I would tell her, "Yeah, that looks really good."
Yeah.
Or no, just change this.
Yeah. And and our illustrator, we got to meet her last year.
Oh,
yeah, she is in Turkey. And in Istanbul, and because we were there for vacation, we got to meet her in person after working with her for 3 years. So that was really cool. Yeah.
Oh man, I want to take a book tour where I go visit all of my illustrators. That sounds amazing. I'm like, what's the illustrator tour? Yeah. And I think the thing to remember too is I'm always getting people like, how do I get the cheapest illustrations? I understand that question, but basically what you're saying is like, how can I best take advantage of someone's skill and expertise and training?
Yeah.
Like they're not just, there's such a misunderstanding around the value of that artwork.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean everybody has the budget for it. But again, like you're investing in your story, and that requires a person to come along and bring it to life through their artwork. And so don't settle there.
Yeah.
Find a person who can bring it to life like you did,
Yeah.
and then be willing to pay them what it's worth, even if you have to, again, take a little side gig,
Yeah.
sell a bunch of candles for Christmas, like whatever you need to do, because they've invested in themselves to get to the point where they can do this work, and they deserve all of the pennies. And then not just that, but like when you're working with them, realize you don't know the process at all. I'll have authors come along and, you know what, actually, can we start over from scratch? I don't like any of it anymore. And I'm like, no, actually, unless I'm going to pay them double, because if you like, if we've gotten this far, no. Or, hey, can we like totally change this one scene? I'm like, I don't think you understand how art works.
Right. Exactly.
Or how it's done. If you want watercolor, like a live medium watercolor, that's going to be a lot harder to make changes to after you've approved things than digital art, where they can go with layers and do things, right? So
you have to really know what you want and be very specific.
You have to know what you want, and you have to be willing to pay for it. And if you're not, then just know that you may not love it at the end.
Very true. I think it's true, because I think another issue that authors go through when it comes to like novels that I've noticed is, so moving away from the children's book, is editing. Because I know you do editing, but I also know, you have novels out. So with editing, it's like, it's a process within itself. It costs you, like you were saying before, but even the time, I feel like that's the longest you go, especially if you're dealing with novels. And so I had to work with someone and helping them kind of publish their novel. And the editing process I go through with my books, with my children's book, is completely different than what I had to go through with them. It took a long time, back and forth. And we had to also hire a proofreader after the editor, who still found more mistakes. We had to go back to the editor. It was a long process.
And that's a good point too, is that with editing, all of our brains will eventually begin to autocorrect text that we're too familiar with. I mean, think of any of those little like games you can find online. Not games, but it's like, read this sentence. Did you notice that the was together twice in one part of the sentence? No. Why? Because your brain is auto-correcting all the time. So an editor has to constantly be fighting against the natural wiring of the brain to autocorrect mistakes because we're supposed to correct them.
Yeah.
Not with our eyes, with our fingers.
Right.
And so when you think of investment, like you either want somebody who, like on my team, I contract other editors.
Yeah.
So my editing service includes another editor always because I know this. I know I'm going to miss things and I hate that.
Yeah.
So I always have somebody else read after me to help.
Yeah.
And even still, we're going to miss something.
Yeah.
And so were all of your readers. It'll take one reader, like 1,000 readers from now, to be like, hey, there's this problem. And you're like, how did everybody miss that? Like, everybody. But you.
It's true.
But you.
Yeah, it's true. She
process.
had to republish her book, the one I worked with, because we got it to publishing. She did everything. She did went well, but there were some things that were missed, and she didn't like that. So she ended up like republishing it, and then the second time around it went fine. But yeah, it's definitely a process, and the cost that you were talking about comes with it as well. People think once you become an author, you become rich, right? So
yeah.
authors are rich is kind of like the thought of, which is not true at all. So especially when you're talking about all these costs that you have to come up with, like,
you gotta repay those before you're rich.
Right. Yeah. Like, how do you, people are like, oh, you're making money then. We see you selling. Oh my God. And I'm like, how much do I get from Amazon? Like, seriously, it's like, how much are you getting from when it comes to the book cost to your royalties that it's an actual like income. When you're looking at that, like, how do you respond to people when they say, oh, you're rich because you're an author? Because I feel like a lot of people ask me that.
I laugh. And then I say, what do I say? I say there are the authors who really, really market a lot and invest a lot of money into their marketing will make more money on their books. In my case specifically, I can only speak to like my situation. I don't market them as much as I could and maybe even should, but I've built a business on top of my books. Right. So now people buy my books because they say, well, I want to hire her, but is she any good? I want to read her books first to see if she's any good.
Right.
And then I get a lot of people, oh, she's amazing. I totally want to work with her.
Right.
Or speaking, right? I get speaking engagements as a result and can charge for those things. So the places where I'm making money are not, I get money for my books, but it's not a livable income. And I told you there's 19 of them.
Yeah.
But I also, and maybe the same 5 consistently sell each other. And then I have to work really hard at selling the others. And that's, again, just being visible and showing up places, right? And doing lots and lots of that kind of work. So I just say like the amount of energy and time and money you put into it will reflect how much you make on it. Yeah. There are authors out there, especially the sexy authors, the genres, who make a lot more money, right? And I've known children's book authors to go pick up a pseudonym and write a bunch of that to pay for their children's book publishing. Because some genres sell more than others too, right? So I guess that's just, I think, again, it comes back to investments to a degree, right? And for a while, it's like rolling a boulder uphill. And then you just keep doing the work like you guys are doing, you and Jonah, right? Showing up at events, speaking places, doing readings, doing a podcast, all the things. Yeah. You're just pushing that boulder up the hill. And then at some point it begins to take on its own momentum.
Yeah.
And parents begin recommending it to other parents or communities to other communities or whatever it might be. And then you're like, okay, I finally don't have to work as hard and it's just selling. But it takes time and energy.
And it's a lot of work. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's anything we start in life, any new business or endeavor.
Yeah.
If people don't know about it, they're not.
No, they only see the glam on social media.
But I will tell you, I've had a number of people are like, oh yeah, now that I'm retired, I'm going to write and I'll live off of like my retirement from my royalties. maybe have a backup plan.
Good luck. Good luck with that.
Yeah,
and then it's like, do you think like having more than one book also is helpful to like marketing and making more, money wise, like financially, or just having one and done, you'll make money?
No, especially if you can write a book series and you begin to get fans of the series and they're always waiting for the next thing you publish. Mm-hmm. And you have all these ready-made buyers like waiting to hand you their money in exchange for your next story.
Right.
So that's how a lot of authors will do it. And that's specifically true with fiction or Yeah, fiction, whether
Yeah.
it's children or adult fiction, right? Yeah. I've written a lot of books, but not in the same genre. And so it can be deceiving. Like, you have 19 books and you're still not making a livable income. Well, yeah, but one's a memoir, 5 are children's picture books, 1 is a young adult novel, 1's on minimalism, 2 are on foster care and adoption, right? Like,
Yeah.
I haven't written a lot for the same audience over and over.
Right. I hear you. Yeah.
So I might have fans from my foster adopt, but they're waiting for more foster adopt books. Or
Correct.
like me to come speak. They're like, I don't care as much about minimalism or
Children's
your
books.
memoir, maybe,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
want more of this. So that's my that is, I am aware and intentional. Okay, like, we know how the industry works, and then we get to make decisions, right? So I know that a writer who writes a lot for the same audience is going to do a lot better than someone who's writing the way I write.
Yeah.
But I've made a conscientious decision that I'm writing to give people the stories that I want to give them,
Yeah.
regardless.
Yeah.
So I've made a decision to not pursue this one lane.
Right.
And I know the cost, so to speak, will be,
Right.
okay, I don't have that, like, that one brand that writes that one series that everyone's biting to get at, right? Like,
Yeah.
even my last book is overcoming writer's block, and it's very psychological, very strategic, lots of tips. I haven't written anything for writers in
Yeah.
all of my, that's my first book
Yeah.
that I wrote
It's in the mail. I'm
specifically for
excited to get it. Yeah. And
it's
yeah.
so good. I keep hearing it's so good, which is exciting. But
Yeah.
like, again, 15th book, did I write for any of the other people I'd written for yet? Nope, brand new audience.
Yeah.
And I work with them a lot, you know. So
Yeah.
I know that's a long answer to the question, but I think it's nuanced like that.
Yeah. It's very
I
true
wouldn't-
though. Even for children's books. What's the series you like that you can't get enough of?
Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Why do you like it?
Because they're funny.
And okay, and tell me
like,
more about it.
They're long and they have pictures.
And
Most long books don't have pictures.
okay, and they're children, and it's a series though,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, he could not sleep the day that the next book was coming out. We had to run to Target, you know, to get the next book, right?
Yeah.
You were so excited about it. It just came out, right?
Yeah, the 17th one.
Yeah. And he read them, and then he read them again, all of them. Are you right?
Yeah, 5 different times.
So good writing, good investment into the brand,
Right.
and continuing to produce things that the kids and their parents are excited to go run and get, right? Like, that's absolutely an effective strategy.
Yeah.
And so if that's the strategy you take, you're going to make money faster than I did.
It just takes a lot of time, I think.
Yes,
It's
and it's a business. I think people don't realize that.
Yeah.
I just want to publish a
It's
book.
true.
I just want to leave a legacy.
It's true.
It's on my bucket list.
Right.
That's great. That's fine.
Yeah.
You're still starting a business, whether whether you like it or not.
Very true.
The law, the country sees it as a new business.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. And what was the last question you had for Marcy?
So, what tips do you have for children who want to become authors?
Oh, Jonah, I feel like this is a question for you. You're like such a model example. I would say talk to Jonah. He's done it. Actually, I think I even recently tagged you guys on a post where someone was talking about their child publishing, and I was like, oh, talk to the kids who've done it.
Yeah.
I would say to a kid who is wanting to write and publish that you can do it. I think it's easy to think maybe you're too young, or you've been listening, Jonah, and you might be listening to some of this going, that sounds like a lot of money and a lot of things I don't know about. I can't do this. And yes, you can.
Yeah.
There are adults who will help you, right?
Right.
And
Yes, right.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, you specifically, and in the world, I mean, my another editor that I love and use, who's part of my business, Bethany, is a classroom teacher, and she helped her whole classroom get published of students.
Oh, you know,
Like,
somebody else was doing that. It's so cool, you know, like when they're doing that. Yeah, I agree. 100%. That's so nice.
I think that's the biggest thing, is to know that you can. And Jonah, what would you add to that? Because I can talk about it, but you're a kid who's done it. What would you want kids to know who are thinking about it?
Like you said, you're not too young, or like don't get these bad thoughts in your head, because you can do it. And like me, I started writing when I was 5. I even wrote my own book by myself when I was 7. So just write about something that you are interested in or you like to do.
Uh-huh.
I love
Something
it.
that's enjoyable, basically, for
That you
you.
love to do.
Yeah.
And what better? I mean, you wrote a book for children also, right, Jonah?
Mhm.
What better way to communicate? Like when I write for children, I'm trying to remember what it was like to be a child.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to take my adult brain and make it communicate in a way that a kid will like and understand. And Jonah, you and kids who might be interested in writing like you have such a gift and opportunity. You know how kids speak and what they think and what they love because you're right there among them.
Right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to work so hard like the adults do to think about, man, what kind of story would my friends love? Or when I go to the library, what kind of story isn't there that I
Mhm.
wish were there? Your mom
Right.
said earlier, I wanted an illustrator who could make the characters look like us. How many kids who look like you need more books who look like you,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Or who have the kind of story that you have in your home, right? Some families don't have a dad in the home or a mom in the home or whatever it might be. And when we can give them stories that say, you're not alone. Look, here's a story just like your life a little bit.
Mhm.
And we get to do such a cool thing. And I tell you I like to eavesdrop, but I can't go sit in your classroom desk and eavesdrop. That's creepy. But you can.
Right?
Yeah.
And then figure out what will be the next thing that you would write about and
Yeah.
what interests you more.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a way to do it, I think, and it's also important. How long do you think it takes to write and publish a children's book? And then the same question, how long does the whole process from like writing to publishing for a novel, basically?
Yeah.
Average, because I know it's
I know
different.
averages. So many like factors. I mean, my goal is usually to get a children's book out in 3 months or less, from editing to published.
Right.
And we can do it faster. That one comes down to the pace of the illustrator.
Mm-hmm.
So I mentioned earlier that I have an illustrator with just a lot of life stuff that has happened, lots of hard life stuff. So we've been 6 months.
Oh.
I think we started this book in May thinking we'd have it in plenty of time for Christmas, and it's not going to be out by Christmas.
Oh, wow.
What can I do? She's the sweetest person and she's working on it, but life keeps happening, So that is an exception.
Right.
But I definitely talk with my contractors, whether it's an editor, an illustrator, whatever, like, what's your time frame? How quickly do you think you can do this reasonably?
Right.
So I say about 3 months, and then for the same or less for a novel. Again, then it's not the illustrator, it's the editor.
Yeah.
I take longer as an editor of a 150,000 word book than another editor I work with. So sometimes I'll throw those to her, and then she'll do the bulk of it, and I'll come back and do the copy edit. But just being mindful of the time of year. Like right now, if I'm asking editors to work, I'm asking them to work during the holidays. It's going to slow down. So I would say on average, like 3 months or less, no problem. In fact, I just put a book out in about a month and a half. My last book, from the beginning of writing it to publishing it, was about
the novel. Oh, wow.
Overcoming writer's block.
Wow. Yeah. How many pages was it?
I don't know what it is in pages because I have a whole bunch of resources and strategies at the end and throughout.
Yeah.
But it was over 50,000 words.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But I coach it, I talk it, I teach it, I speak on it, I write on it. So when it came to putting it down,
it was easy.
I knew the content, right? And I also was writing about writer's block, so I wouldn't let myself have any.
You're just like on a mission. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's a difference there, right? Like, I knew the content.
Yeah.
I've done a lot. I have all the people at my ready to hire to get the things out. So, but I'm just saying it can be done. I know some people who do it really fast.
Yeah.
And then there's 10-year books, like people who take 10 years. And that's where I like to come in psychologically and help people, because sometimes when it's slowing down, it's not actually because of what you think it is.
Right.
There's some beneath the surface kind of thing going on to prevent you from moving forward. And I love digging into that.
Yeah.
That's my jam.
That's awesome. Well, this was amazing, Marcy. Thank you so much for all the tips, for everything that we talked about. It was very helpful, and we hope that everyone finds this a helpful message. How can people find you?
Yeah, I was just thinking, oh man, I have a free guide, a free publishing guide for children's books and for adult books. It's the same other than the illustration piece, but it's free. I'll give you the links to that and
Yeah.
you can put those in the show
On
notes
the
or wherever
website.
people can
Sure.
grab that. But it just saves you having to go read, how do I do this? It's all
Right.
the steps with links and some tips. And then there's a free call if you want to get on a call with me and like hash through like your next step or your best publishing path
Right.
or whatever it is. I've got a free call for that. And then that's really to strategize. And then if there's a service you have that helps. So yeah, I'm on Instagram at Marcy Marie. I'm just getting going on TikTok, Marcy Pusey, marcypusey.com. And yeah, my press site is miramaripontepress.com. And I'll give you the links for these things too. But yeah, I'd love to help anyone who, child or adult, Jonah, right?
Yeah.
You know it. I'll help anybody because I do genuinely believe that all stories matter.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. This was so great. Thank you for being here. And we hope to have you again talking about your next genre, maybe.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. So thank you. This was very helpful. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's so
what do you
good
want to say, Jonah?
You're welcome.
And say thank you.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It's so good to see you. And I'm so proud of you both. Like, I just want to say that I'm so proud of you both. You've overcome so many hurdles yourself. Jonah, you said it, like my age, you know, my belief in myself. You had to overcome those things. Deborah, all of the investment and the figuring out the technology, like you've done it. You're such an example of the possibility when we're willing to push through hard things. And so I just want you to hear that. I'm so proud of you both.
Oh, thank you. It really, truly means a lot to us because it was hard to get started. It was hard to keep going. It's still hard to keep going.
It's still hard.
Yeah, it's still hard. So, but you just got to keep pushing forward because, you know, like you said, you're like on a mission and we started this adventure and I love it. It's just, it gets hard sometimes when, you know, you're juggling a full-time job, you're juggling a child, and then you have this business that you're trying to feed and kind of put, you know, on top of your books. There's the books that you have to market, and then you have the podcast. It's just everything, and it can get so overwhelming. It's not even, it's not even easy to say it, but it's like if you're, you know, if it's your passion, I think it makes it easier. Yeah. So I think like you, basically, I think we have that in common for sure. So I appreciate that a lot for you saying that. Thank you. Thank you, Marcy.
Bye.
Thank you for being here. Bye.
Thank you. Let's do a handshake.
Oh, a handshake.